Thank you so much. Such an honor. Such an honor to be a part of this, and especially just in this time. So thank you, Erin. Thank you all for being here, being present. Yeah, feeling so much gratitude for you all. So I am a big fan of this topic, insourcing, and for all of you who are entrepreneurs, you're certainly familiar with the word outsourcing, right? Outsourcing is, of course, very important, and I help a lot of entrepreneurs with this in terms of hiring and delegating and how important it is, right, to not do everything on your own. So outsourcing is amazing. It's awesome. And so we're kind of talking about this piece where it's actually about outsourcing, your own knowing. And so I want to actually explain insourcing a little bit. We all know what outsourcing is, but what I want to share today is really 3 practical ways that you can strengthen this muscle in order to support yourself in getting where you want to go. So there's a form of outsourcing, so yes, there's the hiring and delegating, but there's this form of outsourcing, which is when we look outside of ourselves for solutions or permission or approval. And, especially when we feel lost or scared or overwhelmed. And it's really almost a very childlike energy, right? When you're little, you were looking to your parents to, help you and protect you. And now as you're matured into this amazing, strong woman adult, to really watch where you might be falling back into those same patterns, right? Of wanting that approval or acceptance or love, which is very normal. And yet there's also ways to strengthen this muscle. I mean, insourcing, this is about cultivating a deep, trusting relationship with yourself. And it's absolutely essential for realizing your fullest potential in all areas of your life and your business. You can also think of this trusting relationship with yourself as your higher self, your wise self, spirit or intuition, whatever you like to call it, but it's essentially the same. When you are insourcing, you're totally tuned into your own inner compass. And this is important because when we are tuned into your own inner compass, when you are tuned into your own inner compass, you do 3 things a lot better. And I hope you guys are all even taking notes too, for whatever sparks for you in this time as reminders, because all of this, I'm such a firm believer that you all have this divine wisdom inside of you, but it's going to spark something for you, a message for you in this time. So number 1, when you're tuned into your own inner compass and you're truly insourcing, you are showing up more confidently and securely in all areas of your life. Number 2, you're listening to yourself, right? So you make decisions faster, you speak up on behalf of yourself and unapologetically so. And then number 3 is you set boundaries. This is a big one. You set boundaries, you know how to better manage expectations. That means even if you have set an agreement with someone and it needs to be shifted, that you manage those expectations. And all of this helps you to experience more peace within yourself, right? More ease and flow with the challenges in your life. So now you're clear on, basically watching, knowing what this insourcing is. And I want you to get clear on how you might be outsourcing your knowing and what insourcing is. And really, like I said, I'm going to give you these 3 ways to strengthen this muscle. I also want to just interject some truth in here that some of you guys may or may not identify with, which I think is just an important part of this story for me that some of you guys might relate to, which is that I feel like I strengthened this within myself and became someone who is so independent, who is so listens to myself out of necessity because I had a narcissistic, alcoholic stepfather who essentially really wanted me to know that I didn't know anything, that he was the adult and I was the child, and that I didn't know. And being like brought up in that in very formative times of my childhood, it really had me, yeah, I see some people like, I had one of those too. If you had any narcissism, you know, that is ultimately, if you've been raised by any sort of narcissism, or even someone who is also invasive, right? Because there's this sort of abandon or pulling away your own knowing, or, you know, making that small. And there's also then even the invasiveness where you don't even have the space to listen to yourself and your own needs. So just wanting to bring that to light for any of you who are like, wow, that was kind of my experience, and having some deep compassion for the part of you that may not yet know how to speak up on behalf, because it is so ingrained in, you know, you, and potentially even from your mother and her relationship with her parents, you know. So bringing that to light. So diving in, just with that deeper like compassion for yourself, we're going to go through these 3 ways that you can strengthen your insourcing muscle. And this is, again, really all the work that I do. While yes, it's business coaching, it's about growing this connection to yourself and strengthening this your relationship with yourself. And what I'm about to share with you is absolutely required for cultivating this conscious connection with yourself, which is also just going to help you excel at anything you want in your life. So the first step of this is to identify where and when you outsource, which are also ways that you derail and distract yourself. Another way to say this is even just the ways you get in your own way and you limit your progress. And we experience these when we are at our learning edge, right? When things start feeling, we all have learning edges, right? Where we hit this point where we don't know what we're doing. And they're specific to us. So even as I'm sharing this with you, and I've experienced this as I listen to other speakers, I'm like, oh, I know that, right? And here's the thing, you probably do. You're all badass women that know a lot, and you're so capable and you're so powerful. But when you're at that learning edge, in whatever that is for you, you're met with the places that still need to be healed, right? The places you still go small, or you still have that insecurity that comes up, right? And that's your patterns, right? Your history. And that's what derails us. So when we're really going for it and you're growing something, or you're putting your heart into something, you're going to be met with these parts of your shadow that are ready to be cleared and healed. We often aim to work towards these goals, like with more efficiency and effectiveness. But if we're still being driven from this core belief, then you may find yourself not making the progress you desire. So I want to walk you through a process right now where we're going to help you identify how you outsource. And I think Doriana is going to be on the call today, and I have a feeling we might be speaking to some similar things. I'm excited for her genius. But this is so key. So even if you hear it twice in 2 different ways, I think it's so helpful. So I want you to write these down and just see if you recognize any of these self-limiting thought patterns for yourself. I can't, which is, I'm going to actually even give you kind of what these are if you hear these. And you might even have some of like what your self-limiting thought patterns are. You might be familiar with your kind of consistent tapes that play. So I can't is like the helpless, hopeless, overwhelmed victim, right? You might even just feel overwhelmed a lot, or you might feel kind of helpless at times, or you might actually say those words, I can't, or I'm afraid that they won't like it, or that they'll think I'm this, too much, or this, and that's often an indicator that there's some perfectionism, or the people pleaser coming in, or that anxiety. It's often self-induced pressure. Who do I think I am? The imposter syndrome. I think Doriana is going to go into that a little bit more. I don't want to. The big rebel. Anyone here a rebel? I'm a total rebel. And so often that rebel is like that child that comes out. And the child that comes out is this masking actually this victim or I can't feeling, because you just want to escape, peace out. You don't even want to have to show up and try, because it's just easier to be like, whatever, you guys suck, right? You almost can kind of imagine the teenager voice there. The I don't know. This was a really big one. So for any of you guys who had that, some kind of a narcissism experience, right, that you were really ingrained with the I don't know, that is a big one. And that disempowered feeling that you might have at this core level might mean that you go outside of yourself more, or even feel the need to learn more, feel like you don't know, feel like you have to do more research before you're prepared, before you're ready, you need another certification. That I'm too this, or I'm not enough. I call this the hamster wheel of not enough, because ultimately you just end up getting yourself on the hamster wheel and repeating that same pattern of outsourcing or I'm not enough. And then you beat yourself up, and it just is like never ending cycle. Another end of the extreme that I really want to make sure I point out here is the invincible or overconfident. So you might not have any of these, but and another one is like, I'm better than anyone. Nobody can do it better than me. And and which is also a protection mechanism, and just really acknowledging that and recognizing that, that I have to do everything, all these idiots around me, I have to do everything. Right. So just watching where that might come up and how it's also a protection mechanism. And now sometimes it's helpful to identify the presenting problem. So a really big one, right, is like if you busy yourselves. And so as we're in this global pause right now, and everyone is all of a sudden like slowing down, and they're in their homes, and they're not rushing to get somewhere, and not rushing to manage everyone's expectations of where they need to be and what time and all that stuff. Everyone is slowing down. And what I think everyone's waking up to is, similar to why we, eat more cookies than we should, right? Or overwork, all these ways, like our coping mechanisms of outside of ourselves, we also can busy ourselves as a way of suppressing and not listening. So in this global pause, I think that, I'm holding space for all of those who have any kind of addictions, that they use that to control, including work, including anything that's escapism, because all of a sudden in this pause, we're getting faced with the shit that you might have had other things distracting you to see. So the presenting problems that you might even see, so these are kind of the underlying messages I shared, but the presenting problem could just simply be procrastination and distraction, being on Facebook, Instagram, cleaning out your closet, which you probably are all doing a little bit more of now that you have to be in your house 24/7 if you're not used to working from home. And that perfectionism, so never launching or never publishing because it's never good enough. Mixed emotions or indecisiveness. So again, that's like, these are all muscles you can build. And I really want you to be thinking about this for yourselves, of what's sparking for you. And you can even share in the chat box, like if you're like, oh, perfectionism, I know that one, or I totally find myself getting distracted on Facebook or whatever, because you're not alone here. Like, we all have forms of this. These are not bad. It's really just watching how you derail yourself. And we're going to get into some solutions in here a little bit. And I'm also watching my time, Erin, just so you know. Feeling tired, or you don't feel good, and like that energy management, and watching where you might not even just be honoring what's coming through you in a way that actually helps you truly flourish and be lit up, right? Lying in little ways. If you've ever found yourself, even little white lies of like, oh, sorry, I couldn't make it to that event because of this, that's not true. It's like, how much are you not honoring your own truth in that way because of some underlying fear? Anger, frustration, resentment, any kind of research, right? That researching to death, analysis paralysis, and then just timidity or hiding or playing small in some way. And then here's a big one that's really big. I always leave like these big ones for last, just in case you haven't recognized yourself in this one, but maybe you're at a place, and maybe you've gotten here before and you recognize this, but of coasting in that comfort zone. And I've seen this because I have grown many businesses to 6 figures and beyond, and helped others. And I've seen many business owners get to this like comfortable coasting comfort zone. I'm seeing some like nodding heads, and it's really something that is dangerous, just as dangerous, as any of the others. And then there's, of course, this spread thin or burnout or taking on too much and being that like martyr, the bottleneck in your own way in your business. So whenever you find yourself outsourcing in these ways, what's key is that you watch out for them and you notice them in your own kind of self-identification of like, what's coming up here? Because there's a core, and if you outsource, so just to be clear, if you find any of these are happening and then you're outsourcing in terms of, like I said, right, these coping mechanisms or whatever it is that, the more awareness you can bring to these within yourself, the more you can work at them within yourself. But when you're outsourcing to someone else to try to fix it or take care, then you're kind of saying this core limiting belief is that you don't already have this answer within you, or that you don't have the capacity to handle it. So often even I say, if you hear yourself saying that you're overwhelmed a lot, it actually is this feeling that there's an underlying message in there that you feel like you can't or you're not capable. And so to even come to your own, inner child, your own self to say, you can do this, you are capable, and come back into that inner knowing, even just to see what it says. And the most detrimental piece of all of this is that it erodes your self-trust. And that is the most dangerous thing. So really what we're doing here is strengthening this inner muscle. I actually have something that I'm working on, which I've shared with Marley many times, which is really wanting to create this like inner strength academy. Because for all of us to be so connected with that inner strength, I am like so passionate about it, because this is where basically coming back to that personal story of like, I watched my mom not speaking up for herself her whole life, right? Not setting boundaries, not acting on behalf of herself. And that's what I want every single woman to do, and want you all to rise up. And I know that when you are strong, like you all are, but you're truly, getting out of your own way, then that is the key. So I want to come into just cultivating this conscious awareness, and I'm going to make sure that I'm watching the time, but really this is about identifying those patterns so that you can break the patterns, and really practicing this muscle to strengthen it. So this is just a simple practice you can kind of write down, and it's very simple, like just 5 steps, which is 1, just to notice when you start seeking answers outside of yourself, to stop and first check in with what's true for you and just see what it would feel like to trust it, right? You might have to strengthen that muscle, right? But it starts with you first just wandering into it. And watch these tapes that are playing in your head over and over. I've started to get really good at watching and almost even backtracking. Like if you're feeling bad all of a sudden in a certain point of the day, backtracking of like, when did that kick off? What did I see? And what were the tapes playing in my head that got me to this place that I'm now kind of feeling icky or something's off, right? So, and when you can reverse engineer those and then catch them, you can rewrite that script. So if the fear message or that small message is like, I don't know what I'm doing, or I suck at this, or everyone else is doing great, you can write that down and then rewrite that script. What is a truth from this inner knowing and this wise self within you that can counteract that? And then just recommit. So all of this really is like, it can be, we're on this spiral of evolutionary growth. And so as you see all these opportunities, your invitation always is just to recommit, to come back to yourself. It's not an invitation to beat yourself up, right? It's just an invitation to be like, oh, wow, there that is again. And it's coming up in whatever situation that it's coming up in at your learning edge, for it to be looked at and healed with compassion and curiosity. And then journaling is just the 5th step in this whole thing. So you're going to notice, you're going to watch the tapes that are playing, you're going to catch them and rewrite the script, you're going to recommit, and you're going to journal just so that you can see it. And this really helps, even recording, actually. I've done this many times, and I can actually share a link to a process that just helps you get it out. And it's like this really powerful self-reflection exercise. So recording a video that you may not share with anyone, or recording audio, but the whole purpose is it gets it out of your body. and just helps you see it, right? It's like it's a beautiful self-coaching mechanism. Helps you see what you can't see. And all of this also supports you getting in relationship with yourself. And so when you're consciously creating, in your life and business, this means you're aware of your thoughts and your actions, so you can live from this true choice in the present moment rather than being run by this programming from the past. Third, before I complete, I want to empower you with something I do with my clients and my members. And this is just to give you a framework for how you can kind of really bring this home as you've identified maybe your tapes, as you've identified what your limiting patterns are. You can empower yourself with an embodied affirmation. And one of the best ways to support yourself in this, cultivating this connection to who you are and clarifying this outcome for who you want to become, is to complete this create this embodied affirmation for yourself. So again, if you're at your learning edge and you're afraid you're not, good at this XYZ, and that's someone's going to call you out, maybe the imposter syndrome comes up, or you're not going to be good enough, ask yourself these two questions. How do you want to feel? And what is the outcome you desire? Especially when you're feeling really confused or scared, all that confusion or chaos, and you kind of have all this energy coming up here. And even as we're listening to this, really feeling your feet on the ground and coming back into what is the outcome you desire and how do you want to feel? And this embodied affirmation actually is like this future speaking. So what's your vision for how this is already happening? What does it feel like? Imagine you're telling a friend how well it's going and that outcome you desire, and keeping focused on that, right? That embodied feeling of the desired outcome. So now you have this deeper understanding of why insourcing is so crucial to you and your business, and an awareness of your patterns. Thank you so much for all your notes in the chat box and that reflection, so you guys can all see that in each other as well, that you're not alone. And just really wanting you to have these tools for how do you derail yourself. I also really want to make sure that it's said that this doesn't mean, I'm a business coach. If I stand on any soapbox at all, it is, we need support. And that's why we're here. And so none of this is to say that you don't need support, not by any means. It's just to say that you are always your own authority. That hell yeah, be discerning, to invite others in that only reflect for you your own powerful wisdom within you. And that's what I say with all of my work. I am simply guiding you to the wisdom of your own truth. And having support in that, especially for these deeper shadow things, are so key and so required, right? That we can't see the forest from the trees all the time. And even I love my coaches and my mentor to help me untangle it and see the things that I cannot see. So not saying that support isn't powerful, but for you to be consistently cultivating that so that you're not outsourcing. And the ultimate result of that is embodied leadership. That means that you are then powerful to take your life into your own hands and do whatever you need to do to birth your big ideas into the world.